In this video, I'll be sharing the truth about the Hobie Outback kayak. Is it the best fishing kayak on the market? Is it the best kayak for you? That's what I want to talk about. Now, the Hobie Outback is very popular, and I did a bunch of research before I bought a kayak because there were certain things that I wanted. And after doing that research, I determined that the Outback was the best kayak for me. Now, after fishing out of it for the spring and summer fishing seasons, I'm ready to sort of give my review and did I make the right choice? Was this the right kayak for me? First of all, probably the biggest thing about the Hobie Outback is this Mirage Drive. This is the 180 with the kick-up fins. And what this means is it has forward and reverse. And also, if you hit something, the kick-up fins sort of break out of the way, right? So that's a key feature. The other thing about this is the Hobie mechanism works different than most others. And that difference really shows up in three ways. One is this mechanism where it goes like this instead of being a prop that spins like most of them. The second one is the reverse. So this one doesn't have instantaneous reverse, and in some ways that could be one of the largest drawbacks. And I'll sort of go over some of the biggest potential cons to help you make your decision on you know, does this have limitations that don't support what you want to do? Okay, and so to activate the reverse, basically you pull these tabs, and so this is reverse and this is forward, and it's in forward mode right now. And then the third one is basically that kick-up fin. I have found that the Mirage Drive is very efficient. I don't get tired with it. It doesn't hurt my back. It doesn't hurt my legs, and everything from decent moving streams to lakes. Another key feature that a lot of people focus on with the Hobie Outback is the seat, and this is a very nice seat, very comfortable, easy to adjust the lumbar support. You know, if you're out fishing in it for 7 or 8 hours, at least for me, I don't get uncomfortable. The next feature about the Hobie, the rudder control. Now, I originally thought that these flat little rudder controls were going to be a pain, and maybe I wouldn't like them that much. But honestly, they've worked extremely well. They're very comfortable when you're sitting down. They're just in the right position so that your hand fits on them, and it moves nice and easy. So that's another really nice feature. The tackle box wells, you know, I haven't added any accessories really to this kayak because I just wanted to fish it the way it was. I mean, I have some of my camera gear, but I didn't add rod holders. I didn't add all kinds of other stuff. One of the reasons is these wells right here, they hold bait boxes extremely well. So whether it's your 3600 or 3700, or even the smaller ones like my Gamakatsu for my Ned rig hooks and stuff and jig heads, it does extremely well. So it has good accessible storage right there. But then the other thing that it has is this floor well right here. So this floor well, I basically keep all of my soft plastics in there. And then I also am able to keep most of my terminal tackle that I use. It's like everything I need is right at my fingertips for most kayak trips. Moving to the back, it's got a nice tank well. Typically I have my cart in there, backpack. I've got my bump board, my net. Still figuring out how I keep my net. Of course, the PFD is on when I'm in the kayak. Another great feature about the Hobie is it comes with a paddle. It's a 2-piece paddle, so it separates out for easy transportation. I think it's a fiberglass handle. It's been more than adequate because honestly, in a pedal drive kayak, you don't use the paddle that much, and this has worked out great. In talking about the pedal drive, like, why is that a big deal? Well, I did a little bit of fishing out of kayaks and canoes before I bought this, and I knew I wanted pedal drive because it really allows you to be mostly hands-free, especially once you're heading in the right direction. You don't have to hold the rudder, but even then, you still have the rod and one hand. It's very easy to steer. So that hands-free fishing, really, I mean, that's why so many kayak fish or so many tournament fishermen use a pedal drive or some motor-driven kayak because the hands-free operation is fantastic. Now, another key feature for me was the retractable rudder. You just pull this cord, and it's even marked rudder, and it brings the rudder up so that when you're in shallow water or you're dragging it, you don't damage the rudder. Now, I haven't used this because I haven't added accessories, but it has the same kind of technology for the transducer. And if you have a fish finder, you can mount your transducer right in that plate. It drops down below the kayak when you're using it, and then you pull that and it brings it up, and then a little protective plate slides in underneath it so you don't damage your transducer. Anyway, I don't know a ton about fish finders, but I know that you don't want to beat the heck out of your transducer, and that's why they have that built into the system. Now, talking about storage, Hobie also has this nice sort of front hatch that seems to be watertight. I haven't had water in it yet. Take the bungee cords off like this, and then you have all kinds of storage in there. I basically just keep a jacket and a few extra accessories in there, dry bag for if I'm hitting some heavier water. But for the most part, you know, that's how I use it. And hopefully you could hear how tightly stuck down that was. And then to close it up, you just do that. This point right here is actually to mount a sailing mast, because Hobie has its roots in sailing. But I just fashioned a camera holder for my 360 camera out of it, and it seems to work great. I love the views that I get from that. So this is a 2021 model, and I think it was around 2020 they redesigned the hull to reduce what they call hull slap when it's going through rougher water. And I've been caught in some windy conditions and some, you know, mild whitewater, and it's done extremely well. It's very efficient going upstream, even in water that I wasn't really sure I'd be able to fish in and paddle. I could hold my position facing upstream with just a nice easy pedal, because the pedals are so efficient, and the way it cuts through the water is amazing. Plenty of hand grips for loading. It transports great. I use the Wilderness Systems cart. It just seems to be the best kayak cart. If you want to hear more about kayak carts, let me know and I'll do what I can. Okay, and speaking of accessories, so Hobie has what they call the Atrail System. And so that's these rails right here. Let me get that out of the way. That's these rails right here that sort of have a hex shape. So they have a proprietary system that mounts on there. But anything that uses like your normal T-rail slot, it fits right in there. You know, just like these little retainers for your, which honestly I think is an awesome feature, right? So you can just slide these right over and it holds your box in place. But so you can use, you know, your typical track mounted stuff, or you can use Hobie's Atrail system. Now the Atrail system, I think it provides a little bit more secure mount as far as rotational, but you can adapt any of the systems. I mean, this, you know, my camera is mounted using a Railblazer system with a Ramball adapter, and so I just sort of mashed the two together, and I was able to use the sail port as a mounting spot as well. Another really cool feature that I liked on this, and I use it some, is these little retainer bungees. So these are, you can clip tools and stuff to them so that they don't fall overboard. Again, I haven't put a ton of accessories into this yet. I think that's one of the huge benefits is that for the way I fish, I didn't need to add a bunch of accessories. Now, I have thought of a handful. There's probably 5 or 6 that I'm going to add that are almost like, you know, essential, because they eliminate some of the problems of just kayak fishing in general. But as far as the Hobie goes, it's ready to fish out of the box for me. I'm not a tournament fisherman. So some of the key things that I wanted is I wanted something that was efficient in current. I wanted something that handled shallow water really well. And I wanted something that was really stable. After fishing out of it for quite a while, I think I nail all of those things. From a stability standpoint, standing up in a kayak is not something that's important to me. So I haven't done it. But from just being able to fish out of it and being able to land fish and do the things that you need to do, the stability has been amazing. There's been a few large catches and a few crazy things that have happened that people on some of my other videos say, man, I could never see me doing that in a kayak. Like I thought for sure you were gonna fall out. And I never once felt like I was pushing the envelope of this kayak. So stability wise, I think it's fantastic. If I was a stand-up fisherman and I fished deeper water more, I'd probably consider a pro angler, because it's just the ultimate in stability as far as I can tell. Speaking of water depth, another key reason that I wanted this kayak is that I thought it would handle shallow water much better than most kayaks. And so one of the things that the Hobie Drive will do is, you know, if you push it this way, it basically kicks up to the bottom, and it's almost, you know, it's no deeper than the bottom of the kayak. So it lets you sort of scoot through some water if you're already moving. But you can also flutter like this, and it will move the kayak. And I think that's a huge benefit that I've used a lot. The other important thing when it comes to shallow water is those kick-up fins, right? That if you hit something, at least they're going to move out of the way instead of just stopping you dead or breaking your prop or doing something like that. So a couple of things that have been a pleasant surprise. One is the maneuverability. You don't have to be going that fast, and when you turn the rudder, like, you can really sort of carve a turn to the point where the first couple times I did that, I almost felt like Like when I turned, it was going to throw me up the other side just because I wasn't used to it. But it really does turn extremely well. I've had it in windy conditions. I've gone through some rapids with it. It handled that extremely well. As even with the windy conditions with chop, I had water that was splashing up over the bow. I really didn't get wet, but the water was splashing up. And I think with the design, it sort of funnels it off to the side, which is cool. So that worked really well. Maybe the 3 biggest drawbacks, like what would prevent this from being the right kayak for you? One is price. Let's just talk about that real quick. This is one of the more expensive 12-foot kayaks on the market. I think the list price on them right now is $3,600. I did get a great deal on mine. That's part of why I bought it when I did, instead of waiting. And I bought it in the middle of winter when I couldn't fish out of it. Part of why I got the deal. So the price can be a little limiting on this. So that's one possible bad thing. The second could be the weight. It's a fairly heavy kayak. That's why I use the cart. In fact, this location, it's the first time I've been here in the kayak, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to get this thing out of there. I will, but it's not going to be easy. Luckily, it's not a hot day, and I won't wear myself out. The third one is the reverse mechanism. I think for some people, not having that instantaneous reverse, for when you're fighting a fish or doing something like that, it can be a problem. And there's been 1 or 2 times where I felt like, oh man, this might have been nice, but I was in a little bit deeper water. My biggest largemouth bass catch of the year was one of those where I felt like I was, back and forth on the forward and back because I was trying to free the fish. So it was a little bit of a pain. So that's the Hobie Outback after, 6 months of use. Should you buy it? I think the answer is yes, with the following things. If you want to fish shallow water, if you want pedal drive, and if the price isn't a deterrent. Possibly you pick up a used one. I'm not disappointed in my purchase of the Hobie Outback at all. It has taken me to spots that I wouldn't have been able to get to otherwise. In fact, today I'm going to go fish a section of creek that I've never fished before that really you can't reach any other way. And after seeing how hard it is to get down here, I might be hitting a stretch of creek that hardly ever gets fished. To me, that's one of the huge benefits of kayak angling. Like, you can get away from the popular spots and you can find new water, you can explore, you can find these beautiful remote areas, probably not far from you. I drove an hour to get here. It's not that far from 2 relatively major cities, but it seems like hardly anybody ever comes here. And so hopefully I'll catch some nice fish. If not, I'll enjoy some amazing scenery. I'll get some exercise in my pedal drive kayak. I can't recommend the Hobie enough. It's really had virtually no negatives whatsoever. And again, I do have some key things that I'm going to add next year. So if you want to know what accessories I would recommend and what I'm going to add to it, because I've fished it basically naked, I've fished it as is this entire year, go ahead and subscribe, because pretty soon I'll have that video coming out. And when I do, it'll be right here on the end of this for you to click. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.